Welcome back for the last segment. This is George Brenneman along with Adam Brandon from FreedomWorks. We're talking about the issues that matter and how to make a difference in the upcoming elections. And we're having a training session at the EmpowerU studio at FrameUSA this weekend, Saturday morning at 9:00. RestoreLiberty.us/training, and you can get all the information and register there. But one of the key things there is in November here in Ohio, we have two, one's a constitutional amendment, the other is a resolution. Both of them were put forward by out-of-state actors. Both of them have literally hundreds of millions of dollars of out-of-state money. Both of these resolutions are written in such vague language that they are all-encompassing. They're a liberal's wet dream. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. The first is issue 1, which is theoretically an abortion amendment, but the wording of it is reproductive freedom, and they never define reproductive freedom. It does say that abortion is legal at any point in time for the patient's health, the individual's health. It never uses the word woman. The individual's health, and then they never define health. So it's things like financial health, mental health. I don't feel good today. Go ahead and have an abortion. The second amendment or second resolution is for legalizing marijuana is the official story. But if you look in the actual text of the resolution, the word equity appears 42 times. The word license doesn't appear 20. Yeah. So it's all about creating a cannabis equity and jobs program. Basically, the resolution requires you to put cannabis in poor neighborhoods.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Trying to get out of the other thing is very helpful.
If you were arrested previously for a cannabis violation, they will now pay you to start up that business. That's part of the resolution. So what I'm saying is in November in Ohio is a very, very critical event. Neither of these issues would ever have made it through any legislative process because they're so vague. They're so all-encompassing. There's no definition, which is what the purpose of the legislature is. How do we attack that problem? How do we use the techniques you're talking about and that we're going to be talking about on Saturday? What's your key fundamental approach there?
I appreciate the softball questions, by the way.
Right.
But I want to go back to, I want to start with, I think the marijuana one's a little easier. So I'm going to start there. I just got back from New York City and it was, right before I left, my little boy is like, Daddy, I can't wait to go with you someday. And, I'm walking through New York and I'm like, how wonderful it'll be someday. I'm going to take my son to New York. I love the big buildings and all of that. But if you haven't been to New York in a while, you can't walk one block without walking through someone's weed smoke. And because they've legalized it now, and it's like all of these every block's got a store, and it's almost like, remember all that outrage over Joe Camel and Camel cigarettes? It's almost like, right, like Potty the Plant basically on the street. And they're like, what's really upsetting to me is like, to me, it's like if you have so you legalize weed, it should be like going to the porno place that everyone is like embarrassed to go to, and you park your car 5 blocks away and walk to a dark room. Right. Like it shouldn't be this like weed emporium with like candies and all of the like, hey, here you go. And
the candies look exactly like children's candy.
And I just worry. And it's like, so now that I'm a parent, I'm like, I got enough crap coming at me being a parent. The fact that weed gummies are like falling out of the street right now, you got to think twice about that. And going back to when our research on independence, one of the most interesting things we got back from focus groups is people are like, look, you want to go smoke a doobie in your own house? Fine. But I don't want to walk through your smoke on the street. And I certainly don't want to be going to a ball game now and having to explain to my kid, we're going to stay away from that store, even though it looks like a candy shop. And then also we need to stay, what is that smell, Daddy? That smells like a skunk. Well, I don't feel like explaining that. And right. So that to me is one of those issues where, live and let live in your own home. But come on, keep it out of it. I mean, this is just the way we're mainstreaming it right now. Very dangerous. And then
I agree. And the interesting thing there is you attacked the actual words of what they're going after, legalizing marijuana. And what I'm telling you is that's not what the resolution's about. It's about
I know in New York that the whole point was
statewide equity organization.
In New York, the goal was if you got arrested, you were going to get a leg up and getting into the industry. And it's just like, it's been totally now dominated by like narco terrorists, basically, or the people who are moving in on this stuff. I mean, the problem on that I look on issue one then is you just had that one election. Now you're rolling into this next one. There's a lot of momentum. It's hard to turn your guns so fast on something. And I mean, there is going to be an endless amount of money that's flowing in. But I get back to this where you're going to be, who's going to decide a lot of this is your suburban independent voter. And right now, I mean, the data set that I'm looking at is there. You know, I tipped my toe in just to see a little poll to see what's going on in Ohio, and you know, it's an uphill. It's going to be an uphill battle for folks to get out there on this issue. And the Democrats are real smart in how they're doing this, because what they're trying to do is try to break into suburban, college-educated white women in a handful of suburban counties and get them on this issue with the idea that they could build up their contact list so that when next year rolls around, they're trying to expand Sherrod Brown's base, because Sherrod Brown, in D.C., he was considered most likely gone. And if issue one passes, the message it's sending to the nation, you know, Democratic donors, is that no, Ohio isn't fair.
Go for it.
You know, you've got a good candidate you support here, and we can make these inroads into the burbs. So those are tough. And I think, you know, I think back, maybe it's being a Cleveland Browns fan, or maybe it's my own sports. You know, one thing I realized is, like, especially coming off that loss that just happened on the ballot initiative, after the loss, it's even more important to dig down. It's even more important to get to learn. Because in every loss, there's lessons. That's what I remember.
Right. And I think they gave us a bit of a gift in that, you know, the vagueness of this ballot, the actual text, the ballot text is so manipulated. It's ridiculous, but the actual text makes no distinction based on age. Yeah. So a 10-year-old can get an abortion without any parent knowing what's going on. And in fact, no parent is allowed to tell them you can't. The language is written such that and I think that
opening up those conversations. So it's kind of like, you don't have to drive a truck through the whole thing. You just got to find a hole that is like, look, because you're talking to that suburban woman, she may very well have a 10-year-old daughter, and she may want to know if her daughter's pregnant. I think that's a legitimate question, a legitimate issue, right?
It used to be called being a parent.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I think that those are the types of questions you start bringing up. You know, some people call it the Socratic method, where you kind of make statements and questions.
Right.
And again, I come back to the lesson I have is like engaging with people. If you get your finger out and you're like, if you vote for this, you know, you're killing a baby or something, and you're like lecturing on it, I don't know if you're going to move anyone. If it's like, look, do you know this bill does this? You know, does this the parental rights? Like, that's all we're talking. Do you know it does that? Oh, you didn't know that? Man,
right.
This bill goes too far. Boom. You're starting to open people up again, and you could have other conversations.
So what are the most effective ways to do this? Everybody talks about social media. Last year, we had some significant success using social media on a tax levy. What's the best way to go after that? Is it just person to person trying to get out to a tree?
So I always put up, and this is like a distinction without a difference. Some of my board members say, but I'm like, no, you have to listen to this. This is important. There's grassroots and then there's activism. And to me, activism are the people who are showing up, who are going to be showing up for this. They're on a Saturday morning, they are coming to an event. You know, how many people show up? That is the most powerful people in America who are deciding that they're going to take an active participatory step for their democracy and in their republic. So those are activists. But grassroots to me are peer-to-peer conversations. That's when mothers and, you know, when my wife gets some Chardonnay out and a dozen mothers from the neighborhood descend at my house and throw me out. That's where they start having different conversations. And that's grassroots, right? When they start deciding like, well, I saw this or I'm concerned about that. And so a lot of that is social media. And so there's, again, in all of this, what we're talking about, the bottom line is, are you a happy warrior? Are you angry? Because no one wants to be with the angry guy. They really don't.
Right.
Are you
the guy that thinks there's no solution?
Yeah, like we're going to solve this problem, or hey, there's this problem, but we can solve this. Like, so even on your social media, like I know too many people that their hobby is owning the lib on social media. That's great. You know what? That's a great sport. That's a great hobby. Okay, great. Like, I drink bourbon. Sure, that's not good for me, but it's a great hobby for me. However, if you're trying to engage and move these independent voters, that's not the way to do it. It's not, screaming at someone's not the way to do it. And by the way, that person you're screaming with, you're not moving them no matter what. Because even if you just owned them, they're going to vote like 10 times now, right? Like, so it's when you put up, I think arguing from facts and questions is just really important. Like, we have $33 trillion in debt. Who's going to pay for this? My kids and grandkids. Right. That's unfair. Statements like that on social media do so well. That's how you people start seeing that. But there is problems with restrictions on social media. There's no doubt about that. But that's the battlefield. And I can go through stats. I'm trying to think of one right now, but it's like, I think if you're under age 50, it's like 55% of your media or your information comes through apps on your phone. And I think if you're over 65, it's 75% of your media comes from television. So it's a different medium to understand. And that's what some of these trainings are about, is to help people understand how to use this. Because if you say you're giving up on Facebook and you're walking off, well,
you just gave up the whole territory.
Yeah. Like the independent's not giving up on Facebook.
Right. So I guess the interesting thing there is, combine that with your comment about COVID and people coming to the door. In 2010, when we were trying to get Steve reelected, it was a door-to-door campaign. We had special brochures, we had special lists, and went door to door. That doesn't work nowadays, but the upside of that is it's a lot safer to teach someone how to do posting, texting.
Texting is more effective. Valuable. Texting is so valuable.
And I agree. I think that's probably the best tip that's come out of this. Is I think it's a safer way to engage now. It used to be you had to have this face-to-face, and most people are terrified in that environment. It's almost like public speaking. Nobody wants to be a public speaker. But if you're just talking through a keyboard, that's a lot easier.
Look, I've been chased by dogs. I've had people threaten to call the police. Like, I've done enough door to door in my life to understand it's not a pleasant way to spend an afternoon. Now, sometimes if there's targeted lists and you can trust them with the candidate that's local, actually, the more local it is, the better. Because then you can talk about the local issue and like, hey, I live two blocks away. We got this problem here in city council. Okay, that stuff is pretty effective. Running for school board. Okay, now door to door could be much more effective. When it comes to more of these federal races, Congress, Senate, White House, if there's one activity, FreedomWorks offers this. I'm sure there's 100 different groups that offer the same thing. Get you involved in a texting program. The only thing I ask is that people do that. Make sure you're working through a program that you're not using your own cell phone number, like the one that we use. It kind of gets scrambled in an app and then delivered so that you can't have someone calling you back in a week or so. Very important. But that type of stuff, that person, psychologically, when they get the text, they're going to read it. Then they'll delete it.
Yeah, but at least you got them to read it. I mean, when you send something, even postcards, our experience with the tax levy is a postcard's 50 cents now, and you have no idea if they spend any time whatsoever reading it. Whereas I spent $50 on Facebook, hit 2,000 people that I know read it, and 800 that responded. Well, that's just, pennies on the dollar compared to postage.
And I think that's, but look at where the trends are going. People get upset when I say this. Millennials are going to be, you had the baby boomers, and then you had my generation, Generation X, and then you have the millennials, and then you have Generation Z, which is another smaller generation. But the way it's working is these millennials they're all in. And as they are continuing to move, and age up, they're going to be your defining factor over the next 10 years. And I can guarantee you, they're much more likely to read a text or see something on social media. And the other tip I would give is, like, when you post something, post it in a way that it's hard to tell if you're a Republican or a Democrat. connect with them on an issue. And that's why I think the spending is so good with the question. Like, and again, anytime you put something up there, Republicans and Democrats both screwed this up. You open the door.
Right. Yeah, I guess the other thing we discovered is the absolute best way to reach people is if you can put it into a meme. If you can create a cartoon that puts your message across, I mean, those hit quick and hard. I mean, it takes time and it takes a certain creativity, but I think those are the best medium we have.
But something I said before the break, 77% of people between 18 and 44 think they're going to be better a year from now. A lot of that is just younger people. They're just optimistic, right? This is their shot at life. This is their shot at a career. This is their shot at love and their shot at buying a car and their shot at doing all of this stuff. And they don't want to do it dourly. They want to believe that they are going to have a shot at the American dream too. And so the more welcoming we could be for younger generations to, like, we want you to be part of the American dream, but this is what, this is the problems you're going to face on the American dream. These are the obstacles you're going to face. Like, okay, now, like I tell you, we're talking about spending, and I've been warning about spending for my entire life, right? And now you've got, and I'm sorry, there's a baby crying in the background, and I am sorry. I hope it's not coming across.
No,
my
no problem.
Girl is, she's not even a year, and apparently she's going down for a nap. But look, we've never had to face the effects of our spending yet. But what you're looking at right now in 7% mortgages, I mean, I'm hoping people aren't listening to this right now and need to go buy a new home anytime soon.
Oh, yeah.
You've got some home equity right now, but good luck finding a house and good luck affording it with the rates. And then I'm sure some of us are going to need to buy new cars in the next couple of years. I think the average price is $40K plus. I think your average monthly payment's like almost $1,000 now, or some absurd number like that. People are having to take out 9-year notes on their car at 6%. Wow. Like, whoa. So why is that? Well, you are competing with the government for money. The government,
you're not going to win that battle.
If they have to raise their interest rates to sell $1.5 trillion every year, you got to compete with that. So that young person, man, they're walking right into it. And so this is a way that opens it up. And it's like, what I'm saying right now, this isn't Republican or Democrat. This is a pox on both of you guys for screwing this up. But that younger person is going to have to make some choices. They're going to be harder than older generations because just crap's going to cost more because of the government spending. And now you can start opening them up on what to do, because I guarantee you what they're not going to want to do is like, you know what, a great idea is more taxes and more regulation, because that's what I need with all of these problems. No, that's not what they're going to say. They're going to sound like traditional Republicans real quick, but you got to start from a place of nonpartisanship. You got to start with the problem and start, making sure that, hey, I care about you in this problem.
Well, Adam, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing your team down here on Saturday morning. Again, if you need any information, go to restoreliberty.us. It's right there at the top of the page, along with the donate button if you want to help out there. FreedomWorks is freedomworks.org, and you can see their information there. Thanks you again. And any last words?
I do. When I go to Thanksgiving, I get in the same fight with my mother-in-law every year. And she says her vote doesn't matter. And she says the politicians don't listen. And I'm like, and that's why they don't listen. Because if they know you vote and they know you are going to your local congressman's office, your local senator's office, your local school board, and you show up and you say something, you are going to change politics. The only person that these elected people are scared of is their voter. And so I appreciate what you guys are doing. We're pleased to help. And what we're trying to do is just get more people to actually get involved in their democracy. Because once you do that, again, going back to the founding principles of the organization, your involvement is unbelievable. It's the only thing that's going to save us. And that's why I'm optimistic.
Thank you so much. Great to having you here, and I hope to see you again soon. This is George Brunneman for RestoreLiberty.us. Check us out at the website and come and see us on Saturday.